Joining us now, Democratic Congressman John Garamendi of California. He's a key member of the Armed Services Committee. Congressman, you just heard Manu's report, Congressman Meadows, saying this audit request is basic oversight and well within his jurisdiction. How do you see it?
Well, that's probably true, but what's the purpose of it? We know that every 6 months, the special counsel is required to produce an entire display of all of his expenses, an entire counting of all of his expenses. He did that. The next one is due in about 30 days. That'll be available to certainly the committees in Congress, both Senate and House. If you want an audit beyond that, fine. But why is he asking? Mark Meadows, who I would consider a friend, is really, I think, out of line here. He is trying to shut down this investigation, and he's using any method possible to do that. And that's a disservice to this nation, because we really need to know. We really need to know what Russia did so that we can prevent it from ever happening again.
Do you believe the president's allies up on Capitol Hill, we're talking about these Republicans, would use that kind of sensitive information that they want to obtain in order to coordinate with the White House?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt it's already been done. Nunes did this more than a year ago. He took information that he thought was useful to the White House, ran over to the White House, gave it to the White House, and lo and behold, later found out that the information actually came from the White House to begin with. An effort by the White House to somehow distort and or derail the investigation. This was a year ago and more. What I find interesting is that while the House committee is doing its level best to stop the investigation, the Senate committee is doing its level best to find out what happened so that our nation can be protected.
To learn the lessons of what exactly happened, make sure it doesn't happen again. Let's turn to another important issue that we're covering right now. The White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders refusing to comment on a rather cruel and crude joke that White House aide Kelly Sadler allegedly made about Senator John McCain. Sadler said, Sarah Sanders, I should say, said she didn't want to talk about internal staff meetings and wouldn't say if Sadler, the aide, should issue an apology. What do you make of that silence from the White House?
You're surprised? This is a White House whose boss, the president, started his campaign by bullying people, by demeaning people, by calling people names, by using the crudest of language. And it's gone on since the very first day of his campaign, right on through his entire presidency. He spends his time calling out people, demeaning them, using language to somehow harm their reputation. And you're surprised that somebody on the staff is doing the same, and they're not willing to fess up and even issue an apology? Don't be surprised, Wolf. This is standard operating procedure from this president right on down the line.
She apparently did call Senator McCain's daughter, issue some sort of apology, but you believe she should lose her job?
I think there is a need for discipline from the president right on down the line within this entire White House. When the chief of staff issues, and I'm sure you're going to go there next, when he goes out and says that immigrants can't assimilate, is he talking about his own grandparents who came from Ireland and probably had no education and did assimilate, and their son or their grandson became a four-star general? He ought to come out. I tell you, Kelly ought to come out and visit my district. He ought to come out and visit the real America and get out of the bubble of the White House and see what's really happening out here. The way immigrants, legal and illegal, are assimilating into this economy and driving this economy. Come to California, which is now the 5th biggest economy in the world, and see what the immigrants are doing, legal and illegal. They are moving the economy of California. They're moving our society. They are participating. They are assimilating. And they are a large part of the energy that we have, at least in the state of California.
Yeah, he did say, and I'll quote it, what he said to NPR. This is the Chief of Staff, John Kelly. He said, these undocumented immigrants, quote, are not people that would easily assimilate into the United States, into our modern society. He said most of them don't have much of an education, can't speak English, but you make a fair point. I think most of our ancestors who came to this country couldn't speak English, didn't have much of an education either. I assume that's in your case, in my case, in most Americans' cases.
Absolutely.
That's why he's getting a lot of heat for those words. You want to make any final point on that?
Well, he deserves it. he deserves to be called out. He deserved to be called out because it is the most un-American thing you can possibly imagine from the second top official within the White House. It is disgusting that he would consider consider these people that way. They're finding their way. They are building part of our economy. You take those people out of the economy throughout this nation and you will not have chicken on your plate, because they are the folks that are working day in and day out in the poultry industry, in the agricultural industry, in the shops across America. They're cleaning our hotels. They are essential. And we need a comprehensive immigration reform so that they can become legitimate and legal in our country, so that our country can put away this terrible problem of the immigration. And we've got to stop this kind of out and out, what amounts to, in my mind, racism.
Yeah, there's nothing bad about people who have a so-called rural background. We need those people as well. All right, we'll see if he elaborates in the hours and days ahead on that. Congressman John Garamendi, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.